Thanks for joining us for another episode of Master to the Business of Music, where we pull back the curtains on the music industry to empower new, indie artists and aspiring business professionals. In this episode, we're taking a look at a part of the industry that most artists are chasing after, radio play. I'm speaking with Dani Strong, a former radio promoter and passionate advocate for the music industry. We aren't just pulling the curtains back, we're pulling them all the way down. It's a great, honest conversation about the state of radio, its impact on independent and new artists, when it's time to go to radio, and what it truly takes to make it in this ever-evolving landscape. As you're listening, I want you to think about what your goals are and what success looks like to you. Does it include radio? Here's my chat with Dani. Thank you for joining us, Dani.
My pleasure, my friend.
Or shall I say D-Rawk-Tiddles?
D-Rawk-Tiddles today. That's my stage name for this podcast. I like to change it every time I talk to you guys.
And I love that.
Yeah.
It's part of what makes you one of my favorite guests.
There we go. You never know who you're going to get. D-Rawk-Tiddles is a good time.
Well, I'm glad D-Rawk-Tiddles is here to is here to play today. So today we're going to talk a bit about radio, sending your songs to radio. Is it worth sending your songs to radio? And all that kind of stuff. And before we get into it, let's talk about you. So why don't you tell us a bit about who you are, how you got into the music industry, and how you got into the side of radio, and then pivoted a bit.
My name is D-Rawk-Tiddles.
At gmail.com if you need to reach out.
Yeah, definitely don't Google that. I didn't test it before I used it. So, my name is Dani Strong, and long story short, I wear a lot of hats. So usually the intro is a little awkward for me because sometimes I don't even know what I do, but I definitely know where I started, and I started out as an artist. And I am still an artist, and that is the one thing that will never change. So, and I think that's an important piece to this conversation as well. As an artist first, it's where a lot of my advice comes from as an industry person. So to further from the artist, I have been in the music industry for 25 years. As a songwriter, as a touring artist, as a recording artist. And then in 2018, well, a little bit before that, but 2018, I officially started working in Canadian radio as a radio promoter, aka a radio tracker. Just FYI, not a lot of radio trackers like the term radio tracker, which is hilarious to me because it's what we are. But
What term do we like?
well, I mean, I don't care. I don't care what you call me. Just don't call me late for dinner. But there's some trackers that will much prefer a radio promoter. I don't know why it's derogatory, but they're just FYI. You can call me tracker. This whole conversation, though, I don't care. But so I got into radio promotion officially in 2018, and it was funny. I got into it by accident. So I have a very good friend in this industry, Jill Snell. I met her as an artist, so she kind of took me on as an artist to her roster. And then we just became fast friends. And she, at the time, was working a band called the Dungarees out of Edmonton. And I was like, this band is amazing. This is what's missing in today's music. These guys should be on the radio. And I'm going on and I'm being very me and all passionate. And Jill was a radio promoter for this band. And she smiled and she looked at me and I was like, what? And she's like, would you ever want to work radio? I was like, I have no idea what you're talking about. And she said, if you love that band so much, that's what you need to tell radio. You need to say what you just said to me to radio for the Dungarees. Like, they need somebody that talks like you do about them. And the rest is history. Basically, that's where it started. So she set me up, hired me as a radio promoter with her company, Road Angel Entertainment. And then this part of the story gets bad. I will not say the artist name because I love the people I'm about to talk about in a negative way.
I love you.
So then Jill gave me a different song that she was working by a different artist. And it was the polar opposite of the things that I loved about the Dungarees. And I learned very quickly who I was as an industry person. And I said to Jill, I said, Jill, I've learned something about myself. I cannot work an artist that I don't believe in. I said, get the only things that I can say about this song is that this is exactly what's wrong with the industry, in my opinion. And I can't lie to people. Like I don't have it in me. And Jill laughed her head off. But it's funny because Jill's one of those people as well that if she doesn't love it, she really won't do it anymore. And so I think that's where I became known as, like, I mean, I think you could probably even back this up, or I don't know, but I think I have a reputation in the industry as being honest. I don't want to say to a fault, but just honest. Like, I'm definitely, if you come to me, and a lot of artists do now for an opinion, I'm going to give it to you, and I'm going to give it to you because I care about the independent and emerging community. I care about it a lot. As an artist, I have spent so much money spinning my tires, that it's so much more important to me to tell an artist that I don't believe maybe I don't personally believe in the song, so don't use me because you want me to be it doesn't mean I don't care about the artist.
Hmm.
Um, but don't use me and never use anybody that is not into your music. And B, that I wanna help artists not waste money because not everybody is gonna be like me and say no. If so that's the very long introduction of me, Logan. That's how I got where I am today. To end it, I did radio. We will get into this deeper. I no longer do radio. I am a professor of music business at, Fanshawe College in London, Ontario, and I am the education lead at, Musora Media, which is a massive, massive online music education company. And I'm still a consultant. I'll never leave the music industry.
I didn't realize I was amongst a professor. So hello,
Yeah,
professor.
you need to refer to me as
Yes.
Professor Strong now.
Um,
That's 4 years, Logan, I've been teaching there.
well, Professor Strong,
Professor D-Rawk-Tiddles.
Professor Tiddles, uh, what does it mean to send a song to radio for people, for a new artist, or for people
Yeah.
who hear, oh, see on social media, I sent a song to radio. What does that actually mean? Because
Oh, great
sending a song
question.
to radio doesn't mean I'm going to hear it on radio.
Yeah, great question. Simply speaking, a lot of people, and it's usually gonna be like the mom or dad or aunt or uncle of from the artist and be like, "Oh, just send your song to this radio station." It's not how it works. So, technically speaking, if you want to we say go to radio. I'm gonna go to radio. If you wanna go to radio, you can do it, first of all, without a radio promoter, radio tracker. It just means that you are going to upload your chosen song. You can't send all your songs, by the way. You pick one. We call that a single. And you upload it into a distribution company in Canada. The most popular being DMDS by Yangaroo. And then there's also Play MPE. And you would upload it into that. You select where you want to send it. So that would be your format. If it's a country song, you're going to select a country format. Pop song, you're going to go pop. And then you hit send. And basically, it's this magical little platform that shoots your song out to every radio station within that format. That's the most simple way of saying it. But and then that's kind of just where the work starts. That's basically radio now has access to your song because you can't just be like, "Hey radio, play the new song by Dani Strong." It's radio will be like, "Oh, is it in the radio system?" Because if it's not, then they can't access it. So that's what it means to go to radio. When you hire a promoter, we take it a step farther. So we upload it. So radio is not now it's not receiving it from this random artist. When you think about it, they get that all the time. And I'm just here to tell you they're probably not going to pay attention. There's going to be some people that do, but for the most part, the for lack of a better term, the gatekeepers are going to rely on their trusted radio promoters to send them music. And that's somebody like myself, or I can give you guys other suggestions later. But um, that's why a promoter is kind of, we have a reputation with radio. And so we're going to put it in the system under our company name and send it out. And then we're going to knock on their door or call them or whatever personally and say, hey, did you hear the new song by Dani Strong? Blah, blah, blah. So that's going to radio.
Whether they like it or not, they're going to hear from you.
And genuinely, I'm sure some of them are like, oh, here she comes.
Another Dani Strong voicemail.
Exactly.
Can you describe the current landscape of radio?
How much time do we have again?
Yeah, that's a huge question. I know. I also work in radio as well. And it's very different than how it was 10 years ago, even 5 years ago.
I think it drastically changed personally. Listen, when I speak to you today, I do work in all formats, but just FYI, my strength and forte is in the country format. So when I'm speaking, a lot of my stories are going to come from that format, just so you know. The landscape today is so drastically different than I'm going to say 3 years ago. It's been pretty steadily not wonderful. Not wonderful for like the past few years. It's never been easy, by the way. Like this is, it's, let's start with this. When you say the landscape of radio, your company and my company, we tend to have a focus on indie and emerging artists
Mhm.
because we're amazing and we're the best. So, and everybody loves us.
Say that
So
again louder.
yeah. So let's be clear. Like you and I that's our focus. We're talking, I think the majority of our audience right now is going to be indie and emerging. Great. Awesome. So from that standpoint, let me be very clear. Radio is not easy. You're coming to me as a radio promoter to put your song on national commercial radio. So to give you perspective, radio, for the most part, is mandated to play 35% Canadian content, okay?
In
Just
Canada, yeah.
that's the rule. That's the rule, okay? There's no specified unique artist count within the 35% Canadian content that a radio station has to play. So I'm going to make one up. Let's call it 100.11. I'm going to say 11 because I don't want to make it be any station. So like 100.11 FM, whatever that is. Let's pretend that is playing
It's
country music.
D-Rawk.
It's D-Rawk. 100.11 D-Rawk FM is playing country music. Well, by law, I have to play 35% Canadian music today. So, but there's no rule telling me how many artists I have to play to equal the 35%. And to me, that is an issue. One that I have actually brought up face to face with the CRTC, and I plan to keep bringing it up. But so what that means is if it's this Canadian country and it's a country station and we're looking for Canadian content, I could play Dallas Smith and Dean Brody 15 times each that day. And maybe one other artist a couple times. I don't know what the numbers are, so don't quote me. But there's nobody telling me how many artists I have to play to make up my 35% Canadian. So I could literally very easily hit my 35% Canadian with 3 or 4 artists, and that is it. And then I'm playing American artists all day. I've had a radio gatekeeper, we'll call them, or decision maker, literally say to me, verbally on a phone, so not in writing, say to me, because I brought this up. I said, well, there's no unique artist count. Like I was telling them my big dream. I was like, I'm going to change it so that we have to play 50% Canadian. And that's my 5-year goal. And we're going to change the world. And I'll never forget. They said to me, and it was in love. They were just trying to help me. They said, Dani, if the CRTC comes to me tomorrow and says, I have to play 50% Canadian, I'm just going to play Dean Brody 11 more times. They literally said that to me. And I'm grateful that they said that to me because it was and they're like, listen, I'm only telling you this because if you're going to go and try and fight this fight, you need to know that we need a unique artist count as well, not just a higher percentage. So I'm super grateful, but just so you know, that's what they said.
I mean, like for me, having like doing work within radio as well as with indie artists and in the more music industry side of things, I can kind of see both sides to this. And like
Mhm.
it's an interesting space for me to be in because like when I'm speaking to artists, I can talk to the artist side. When I'm speaking to radio, I can speak to the radio side. And then I don't actually know what my opinion actually is.
Yeah, no, it's a business.
um
And honestly, and I brought it up too, like when we get into the deeper side of things, like, should you go to radio, right? Like, I love that we're prefacing and setting it up with the state of radio right now. And so, listen, I don't know how I feel about it either. Like, I am not a program director for a massive radio train like Bell or Stingray or Rogers or Pattison. Like, it's not my job. My job doesn't hinge on listeners listening to the radio. My job is to get my artist played on the radio, though, and I'm gonna do my damn job every single time. And so I remember when some people have said that to me. There's a couple of people that I for lack of a better term, like I fight well with at radio. So we have heated conversations and we go back and forth. And they also I said to them once, I was like, so what's going to happen? And they were like, what are you talking about? I was like, so what would happen if you added this artist that I'm asking you to play today that you said, Dani, I can't add them because I don't know if the other people are going to add them. And I was like, "No, seriously." So that's what they say, by the way.
I
They
know.
the most common response we get for independent artists that aren't popping off is, "Let me know when they get to top 30." It's the
How am I
most
getting to top 30?
Thank you. Guess how we get to top 30, my friends, is you play us. It's the most common response, which seems so crazy to me. Like, honestly, I hate to say it. You sound dumb when you say that to me. Like, it doesn't make any sense. Let me know when it gets to top 30. Well, I'm asking you to put it there. So start spinning it. Support. So I actually said, I go, what's going to happen if you spin this song? And I was like kind of being a jerk, and they're like, well, what do you mean? I was like, well, when you say you can't add it, you are the music director, right? And they were like, yeah. And I was like, so you are the decision maker, right? Well, yes. And I was like,
Trap.
okay, well, what happens if you spin the song? And I was like, because I'm picturing you right now sitting in a hallway at your desk with speakers, and it's a long white hallway, and there's these little red lights on the wall all the way down the hallway. And then when you spin this song that I just asked you to play, do all those lights like go off and the
This is an
alarm?
indie artist.
And then it like shakes the building, and all of a sudden you all lose your jobs and everything implodes because you played this song. Like, literally, what will happen if you play this song? Listen, I understand that there's more to it than this. So if PDs and MDs are listening to this podcast right now, they're probably like shaking their head. Dani, you're a little shit disturber. But at the end of the day, that's where my brain is thinking. I'm 8 years into this going, stop saying you can't play a
We're
song.
also approaching this from the
So
music
anyway,
industry side
that's what I was up.
and not from the radio side. Like radio is not really part of the music industry, it's on the periphery. So like
Exactly.
we're approaching this from the music industry side. So that's kind of the difference. I
It,
can
and
speak
it,
to it on the radio side as well, but that's not what we're here for.
but it is good though. It's really good for artists listening to this right now to understand it because listen, you're going to hear from Logan's part of the radio side of
I'm part
things.
of the problem.
No, I mean, listen, I don't even know if it's a problem. All I know, here's where we're at right now. All I know is I left radio. They're all my friends, by the way. I really like everybody. At the end of the day, I am an artist and I came at this with an artist's heart and I came into this industry to fight for independent artists because I don't want to see independent artists stop going to radio. I don't want to wave a white flag. But in the same breath, 8 years later, I had a really hard time taking money from independent artists when I knew what the result was. And that is where I'm at today. But, consulting and working with artists and talking about next steps is my favorite thing because I feel like I can actually give an artist value there where it's like, I see you, I know this journey so well from every genre, from every part of an artist's journey.
And that's why we're
Um,
doing this podcast too, to
yeah,
give people like to actually open the curtains so that we're not just telling artists spend your money, blah 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 blah, because that's also what I hate, and that's the whole purpose of this podcast as well.
Yay!
But I know the question that everyone asks and wants to know the answer to. Before we get into the next steps,
Mm-hmm.
if someone is hell-bent on sending their song to radio,
Mm-hmm.
getting a radio tracker or promoter,
Yeah.
how much money should someone realistically expect to invest?
Okay. I love this question. Let me start with if they're absolutely hell-bent on going to radio. Guess what? We all are. And if you're listening to this and at the front of this and you heard me talk and you were like, oh no, I really wanted to go to radio. Go to radio, my friends. Of course we do. Since we were young, since we first
It is a
discovered
milestone. Check it off the list,
it's a
right?
milestone to hear yourself on the radio. Oh my gosh. Yes. Go to radio, have that experience. Um, I am not discouraging any artist from doing it because I understand the desire. I mean, listen, I still say my Grammy speech in front of the mirror since I was like 10 years old. Like we have to manifest that stuff. So if you want to go to radio, the average cost is $3,000 to $5,000. That's just out of the gate. If you are finding a promoter that charges less than $3,000, there's probably a reason for it. They probably don't like go all day long every day working your song, and that's fine. My suggestion would be that the artist does a lot of the work too. So you can go to radio with a radio promoter that is under 3K and then just make sure you're also following up with the radio stations. It is okay for you to say, who have you sent this to? Have you heard back from them? Can you give me a report, please? Ask all those questions. It's your money. You're the boss. But like my rate was 3,000. It was 4 for a long time. And then there was a change. So in 2023, I think it was 2023, March. I remember it was March. I'll never forget this email. I got an email from the top of a big chain, and the email stated that they are going to try something new, and they were eliminating their light and medium rotation categories for CanCon only. So let me explain what that means. Light rotation, meaning you only get a few spins a day, okay? Medium rotation, a few more spins a day. They eliminated those categories just for Canadian content, which means the only category left for CanCon was heavy rotation. So what that means to somebody like me that's working independent emerging artists, we had nowhere. We had nowhere to enter rotation with those stations now. And then a couple other bigger stations followed suit. So that was where we were at. So that's what you need to know. Now, $3,000 to $5,000, okay? Here's what you can do if you want to go to radio. There are these, what we call is a feature program, a national feature program. What that means is the radio industry heard people like myself bitching and moaning and complaining, saying, there's nowhere for you to play my artists. And they thought they were doing us a favor. I can't wait to hear if any of these people listen to this podcast because they're like, Dani! But Bell Media, in both country and pop formats, have a program called I Heart Future Star. What that means is once every 8 weeks, they choose one artist that is going to be their future star, their I Heart Future Star. And then it's pretty awesome. If you are the artist that lands that feature, you are going to chart top 50. It's a huge milestone. It's such a beautiful thing. And yay, yay, yay. And we love this. And that's great. Here's the problem. There's now one spot every 8 weeks for one artist. If my artist gets it, I'm fucking thrilled. I'm like, yeah, let's go. I have a charting artist. But that means every single other artist that did not get that feature is now dead in the water. For lack of a better term, for 8 weeks, you're already locked into your campaign with your promoter. Your promoter is out there getting paid, knocking on doors. But if you don't get that program, we already know it's another 8 weeks until they pick one. And you're again in a pool with every single indie emerging artist vying for that spot. And so there's iHeart Future Star, there's Rogers One to Watch, same thing, every 8 weeks, and Stingray Trending Track, again, every 8 weeks. So if you're so lucky that you land all 3, you're gonna be really charting, and you really have a chance at success. So that is the wonderful thing about those programs. But here's the problem, they're classifying those programs for emerging. So let's be very clear here. There is a big difference between independent and emerging. You can be emerging and have a major record deal. So now the record labels are coming at the radio people and going, we just signed this artist. Will you spin them? And radio's nervous. They're going, well, they don't. Well, we'll just give you the program.
Mhm.
So radio is now being able to like kind of, I don't want to say hush. I don't want to be harsh, but like appease or humor the record labels by offering their emerging artists these feature categories. So now we're still up against record labels in some cases. Listen, Canada's been very good at supporting the independent community in those programs, but they're also supporting record labels as well. So
And
now you're looking.
there are also smaller stations as well, independent stations that do have their own programs as well that are more open
Sure.
to indie and
So I was
emerging
gonna
artists.
say that too. Yeah, like there are you will always be able to go to secondary stations, one-off stations. You can go to radio without a promoter and still get spins on a smaller station that actually cares about you, that is out there looking for artists to come in and do an interview. So please know that I'm not shitting on all of them. I am talking about the big dreams here. I'm talking about charting and the big guys. So, do you need to spend $3,000 to $5,000 to go and get played on those smaller stations? In my opinion, as an artist who is for artists, no, I don't think you do. And I think in today's day and age, you can send those songs, you can sign up for Play MP3 or Play MPE or DMDS, Yangaroo. You can pay if you want to send to country, it's about, so if you're not using a promoter and you are doing this yourself and you're logging into DMDS, and you're uploading your song and you're clicking country radio and you click send, that's going to cost you anywhere between $400 to $600. And that's it. You send it, and then it tells you the stations that it's sending to. You can look up those stations, you can find their phone number, and you can do your own work. And you just saved $2,500 doing it. So, like, I mean, just pick any station. One that comes to mind to me because I love this station is the Huntsville station. It's like a community radio station in Huntsville, and they have artists in, and they have a little stage there. And imagine if you were playing the Algonquin Theater in Huntsville. So you're playing a show there, or I don't even care if it's not the Algonquin Theater. If you're playing down the road at a little like bar, I can't think of the name in my mind right now, but you're playing at a little bar in Huntsville. By all means, phone that community station. Say, I have this song out. Will you play it? I'm playing in your town that night. They're going to say yes
Mhm.
every single time. You're going to be played on the radio. You're going to be hosted in studio. You're going to have an interview. And then you're going to walk down the street and you're going to play a show. And your cup will be full. There is a way for independent artists to go to radio and to have quote unquote success and have momentum and have items that are shareable and optics that are awesome to your fans. All I'm saying is maybe don't spend $5,000 to do that.
And we're obviously talking about the Canadian market because that's what we know. But for anyone listening who's not in Canada, the same things apply to
Yes.
the American market as well.
Yeah, I mean,
I mean, it is its own beast as well. It's
the
very different. There's
American,
a billion more radio stations in America,
I was gonna
but
say, yeah, Logan, like it's definitely I love that it's international, and sorry because we are Canada focused today. The American radio world is actually drastically different. So you're looking at $20,000 to $25,000 per campaign
mm,
there, by the way.
you can often find success going state by state and doing it smaller.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I'm like, maybe just, and also if you are in the States, Play MPE is the better, in my personal opinion. It's a little bit better to use that as your send, versus like DMDS. But Play MPE seems to be the one for independents to send in the US, but you're also looking at about $900 to do that send. But
because it's
yeah, there's
way
about
bigger.
also 12,000 contacts that you're going to be sending to.
So we've touched on the next steps a little bit, but let's like formally get there. If not radio, what? What is the next
Yeah.
step for an artist, and how can they better use, maybe not better, how can they use their money differently and their time differently to see the same or different success?
Okay, I love this. Okay, there's two parts right there. What is the next step and how can you use your money wisely? I will always say the exact same thing. When you ask me where I think you should spend your money, I'm always going to say on your product. As a songwriter, as an artist, as a recording artist, your product is your song, is your music. It's your recording. Never, ever, like literally, can you please hear me right now? Never cut corners on your recording. And what do I mean by that? I mean, I want you to pick a song that you love that is having success. So, success being it's charting on radio or it's popping off and it has millions of streams. So, choose a song that you love that you feel is where you want to be. So, you're not going to copy it, but like for me, I love Miranda Lambert. So, I would pick like a Miranda Lambert song. This is what I love. This is the sound I like. That would be my reference. You're going to choose a producer preferably that has success, has proven success. On Spotify, you can see, actually, no, on Apple now too. Yay, Apple and Amazon. All three of them now show who produced the music. If the artist uploaded it, right? We won't open that can of worms today. If you don't know how to upload your music properly, just call me.
That's a different episode.
Yeah, that's a whole other thing. But like you can see who produced the songs. So when you go to any platform and you listen and I click on a Miranda Lambert song, you click the little three dots and go to song credits. It's going to show you who produced it. You might not be able to afford Miranda Lambert's producers, so don't do that. But there are producers in Canada and the US that have proven success. Otherwise, make sure you really trust your producer. And there is a big difference between a producer and a mixer. So yes, there are producers who do mixes as well. But just because they go, oh, I can mix that for you, you need to know.
It's better to have fresh ears on it, I think.
Oh my God. Yeah. Anyway, listen, I'll just say, Nate, like Jay Dufour is a phenomenal mixer in Canada. I absolutely love Jay's work. He has no idea that I'm saying this about him. He may not even know who I am. But that's just an example that Jay is known for mixing. That's what he does. In the same breath, my producer produces and mixes my stuff. So just make sure that you are investing in your product. Do not cut corners. Do not use producers who have put out 20 songs and never charted. There's a reason for that. Just FYI, the going standard rate right now this is this fluctuates a lot, but you're looking at $4,000 to $7,000 per song. You can find people for less and they might be great. I'm just telling you, please do your homework, okay? Because if you send me the greatest song in the world, if it's mixed poorly, that is a no every single time. Because when we send you to radio or DSP or when you send it to
Even in a
Spotify,
playlist.
any other playlist, you're up against, if you're Canadian, let's say you're up against Justin Bieber, Shawn Mendes, Tate McRae, Drake. Like that's your fellow colleagues when you're coming to me to send you to either national radio or the streaming platforms. That's who you're up against.
It has to sound good in that mix.
In the words of the great Matt Weaver from London, Ontario, he
Hey, Matt.
wants hey, Matt, this is the best thing I have ever heard. And he meant this with love. He said, just because it's your best doesn't make it the best. Right? So you have to be honest with yourself. Take your product, take your recording, and A/B it. Play it back to back with the top 10 songs on the charts today. And if your snare is blasting out of the recording, unlike the other one, you need a different mix or whatever it is. So spend your money on your producer. If you come in, you only have $5,000. Like, I have a $5,000 budget. So I found a producer who's $2,000. I got a photographer who's $800. I got a mixer who's $300. And then I'm going to use the rest for blah, blah, blah. Nope. You're going to spend all $5,000 on a producer. Nobody even knows you're making a song right now, by the way, so there's no time pressure. You're going to spend all your money, and then you're going to start saving again. And then when you have enough to do the photo shoot, to do your marketing, that's when you start rolling out your plan. Don't start with a budget and divvy it up and find cheaper producers or mixers just because that's what you have.
There's a lot of people who need to hear this.
Right? It's the most important thing. Be honest with yourself or send it to me. I'll be honest with you.
What advice would you give a new artist who's about to release their first single? And I think that advice was kind of just talked about, but
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, no, it's important, right? You don't always listen, radio. Here's where I feel you should, if you want to know when to go to radio, if you release your song, and you land multiple editorial playlists. An editorial playlist is a playlist made by the platform. So let's pause there for a quick hot second. Do not pay for playlisting. Do not pay a third-party company that has DM'd you on social media saying, for this much money, we can get you on real playlists with real listeners. Nope. Stop. Don't do it. Don't do it if your goal is to be seen by streaming platforms, be seen by record labels. I know that it's hard.
it's
And
so tempting.
it's so tempting. Guys, I've done it. I teach this stuff. Like I said, I'm a professor, and I teach this stuff to my consulting clients. I have done it so that I can have an educated opinion. Yes, there are some platforms that you'll see some real, and you'll see real feedback. Here's the thing. I have had an artist who used the third-party playlisting, so they paid a company to get them on playlists because they didn't know any better. Of course they didn't know any better because they didn't have people in their lives telling them don't do that. And it felt legit, and they got on all these playlists, and their stream count went up, and the optics were amazing. Well, this artist got signed to a record label, got signed to a record deal, and then on the next single, the record company released it under the record label, and the record company reached out to Spotify, and Spotify looked into the artist, and they saw all of the streams that came from third-party playlisting, and they said, your artist has been paying for playlists. Like, we're going to, essentially, they were like, we're going to take them off all of these playlists, like basically being penalized for doing it. So you have to be very, very careful. I never, ever recommend a third-party playlisting company because you are at the risk of TuneCore is now removing songs. Like, just your song will just disappear because they suspect that you've been paying for third-party playlisting. So if you've done it, don't panic. All of us have, because we had no idea. We just have somebody saying we do this thing, and we were like, oh, cool, I want that thing. Just don't do it moving forward. So you want to
And if
release
you
your
have like a marketing professional tell you that they pitch your songs to playlists, also be wary of that.
be
And
weary of it.
ask what playlists and where they're doing
Yes.
it, because
Yeah.
I know of some people within the Canadian world that have been doing it, and artist songs are now disappearing from Spotify.
Yep. If you're putting out a song, you'll see that you can pitch it to Amazon and Spotify. Those are the only two that allow you to do it. And then you just got to make sure. The biggest tip is you do it 6 weeks before. When you upload to your distributor, you have to pick your release date 6 weeks from that day. So if we upload
Please.
today, your release date. If you upload today, your release date should be the Friday 6 weeks out. We won't go into it. We could do another podcast on that, but that's it. And then you want to, if you land editorial playlists, so if you get your music on a bunch of playlists made by the platform, Apple, Spotify, Amazon, and all of a sudden you're popping off and you're getting millions of streams, maybe then I would submit your song to the programs, to iHeart Future Star, to Stingray Trending Track, And then when you land those, then do a full radio
Really
campaign.
using data to decide when is the time to hit radio.
100%. There, you know what? Granted, like, I love this. Radio is now paying attention to streams. They didn't for the longest time, which was hilarious. But they're now radio is paying attention to streams as they should be. It's the number one form of music consumption. And so if you are popping off on streaming platforms, definitely say that. If you choose to go to radio and you have less than 50,000 streams, don't talk about your streams. Word of the wise. I know, and listen, I'm happy for you. If you have 20,000 streams and that's the first time you've had 20,000 streams, celebrate it, post about it, tell your fans, don't tell radio because FYI, anything under 50,000 isn't a lot of streams. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, but it's true.
Yeah. Our audience is also people who are looking to get into the business side of music. So as it relates to radio and to this kind of thing, what would be some advice? Like, what are the biggest opportunities right now for someone looking to get into the industry?
I love this. What are some of the biggest opportunities? Okay, so I just want to make sure I get this right. So, like, let's say it's an artist or a person, any person.
Person is like, I really want to be in the music industry. Where do I
Okay.
start? What's the biggest
Oh,
opportunity right
yes.
now? Where should I start learning?
Yes, this is what I do all day long with my students. This is because I teach in the music industry program. So music business is what we do. And honestly, oh, this is such a good question. Do it, first of all. You can do it. I wake up every day and my goal is to instill hope and inspiration into people that want to get into the industry. At the end of the day, the industry owes us nothing. And there are ways for us to pay our rent, our mortgage, and our car payments through music somehow. So my thing is, my students will laugh if they're listening to this. The most important tool you have in your toolbox is relationships, period, bar none. So go out there. If you're Canadian and you're listening to this right now, March 26 to 29 is the Juno Awards. It's happening in Hamilton this year, so Hamilton, Ontario. So get out there. Go right now to juno.ca. I don't know what it's called, but look up
Google Junos.
Yeah, look up the Junos, look up Juno Fest. You're going to buy a Juno Fest pass, so maybe not even the awards. If you don't know, every awards show has like about 2 to 3 days leading up to the actual awards night. It's not just one night of awards. It's a conference and it's like a hangout and it's a family, cheesy as it sounds, coming together, and they are all over the city that is hosting the awards. That is the number one piece of advice I'll give you right now. Go buy a Juno Fest pass or whatever is the closest awards. There's the ECMAs.
Yeah, sign up for
This
the provincial ones as well. They're a great place to start as well.
CMAOs are going to be in June, I believe, right, Logan? CMAOs are in June. So that's the CMA Ontario Awards. Look that up. There's the ECMAs being held in November in St. John's, Newfoundland. There's Breakout West Awards, all of the above. Just get out there and start shaking hands. Next to that, start following all the platforms on social media. So you're going to follow SOCAN. SOCAN does a really good job. For the Black community, there's Advance Music, and they'll always post about jobs in the community. There is Women in Music Association. Follow that. There is, believe it or not, a really good one to follow is Music Managers Forum, MMF Canada. All of these organizations that I'm talking about post about jobs. Front Porch Music also will
Who's
often
that?
will also, if you follow them, will post about jobs. Just start following, get involved. There's companies like, honestly, if I ever received a resume, I probably would have hired somebody even maybe today, like to do social media. There's internships. If you're in a financial situation where you could offer your time for a few months just to get a feel of things, if you are want to work in the live sector A, you're crazy. B, there's lots of room for it. Festival season is around the corner. Reach out to Republic Live. They book Boots and Hearts, and they're probably always looking for volunteers or paid people. There's major venues. My friend owns the Phoenix in Toronto and the Bronson Music Center in Ottawa. They're always looking for people for big shows. Like, there are so many places. We should do another podcast one day because I loved that question so much. And it's literally what I do. But it's funny with my students. It's always this like aha moment where I do a couple times with the like second years and third years. I do a class where I'm like, these are the jobs in the music industry. And the amount of students whose minds are blown, who did not know that there wasn't just be an artist, be a musician, work at a record label, or go on the road. They literally feel like there's kind of 4 sectors. There are so very many. There are dozens and dozens of like departments and sectors that you can, even if it's not your dream job, you can join, you can go and like work and start out on the
The
street.
experience doing a bit of everything.
Literally, unfortunately, it's just we're probably one of the most busy industries out there. So I just say
And
you
say goodbye
have
to summers.
go do it. Get out there. Just go buy the ticket, show up, and then be bold and shake hands. That's all you have to do.
Yeah. I
Like,
say that
that's it.
too all the time. Like artists and even industry people come talk to me because like we know them and we're friends and but I always say, stop talking to me right now. You're in a room full
Go.
of people who are way more important than me. You already know me. You have my phone number. You can text me anytime you want. Go talk
Yeah.
to them.
Yeah.
So then I usually end up standing alone, but that's okay.
I'll hang out with you at the next one,
Thanks,
Logan.
Dan.
We'll meet at the Junos, you and I. I hope that's helpful though, but like I love that question. I'm beaming right now if you're listening. Like, I'm smiling so big because I wasn't expecting that question. I love it. I feel like everybody should work in the music industry. There's room for you, and it's the most beautiful family that I know of, and it's the best, and I love it. And thank you, and have a good day.
That is the perfect place to end this conversation. This might be our longest episode yet, but I expected that. Thanks so much for joining us, Dani.
It is always a pleasure, Logan. We'll talk to you next time.
Talk to you later, Professor Tiddles.
This is Mastered by Front Porch Music. Join Logan Miller and Jenna Weiser, the hosts of CCMA nominated On the Porch with Front Porch Music, for this mini-series podcast offering crash courses on the ins and outs of the music industry. Expert guests from across the Canadian music landscape sit down with Jenna and Logan to discuss labels, getting your shows booked, landing festival slots, A&R, social media, and so much more. Mastered by Front Porch Music is produced by Logan Miller, Jenna Weiser, and Jason Saunders. The theme song for this podcast was written, produced, and performed by Keith Hunt.